Everyone, welcome. We're delighted to be here live on Facebook and on YouTube. This is the ongoing celebration for the release of Feminine Sovereignty, 8 pillars for regenerating ourselves and our world. Yay! And we are already #1 in paid books, which is, my editor says, is a really big deal. Paid books in women studies history, which is a big category on Amazon. So it's not BS. And we're also in 2 different #1 categories for Kindle as well. So if you haven't gone and gotten your book today, today's the day to get your book. FeminineSovereigntyBook.com. All right, I'm not going to go into that a lot, but just know you get your 3-session masterclass, Take Command of Your Life with Feminine Sovereignty, and you get the giveaway when you get your book today, and you can even get it free on Kindle if you want. I like the hard copies. Oh, and for our European friends, I heard from someone,
Rose.
was it Rose, who said that she was it was somebody in Germany.
Oh,
She's
okay.
not in Germany. Oh, maybe Rose too.
Mhm.
Somebody was able to buy the paperback in Germany. So anyway, so maybe our European friends can get the paperback. Amazon told me no, but Amazon changes its mind on a regular basis. So yay to being able to get the hard copy if you want it. All right. So who are these incredible people who are here with me? These are advanced readers. These are people who said, yes, I want to read that book ahead of time.
Gimme.
Gimme. And and read through it, and then wrote back, and you've seen some of their advanced praise already in Amazon, and you will see more as the days go on. So I'm delighted that they're here. These women are awesome, and we have one other who's trying to come in. Well, we'll see. So just so you know, if another one comes in, she is expected. She's just having problems with some of her technology. So what we're going to do today, this is just kind of an informal conversation. But what I thought we could do to start would be that each one of our panelists could just introduce themselves and then just share a little bit about their experience with the book. So this is just very like kind of grassroots, like, hey, how is this for you? And I know that it means a lot. Like, I know when I go on Amazon to buy stuff, I always read the reviews, right? Do you guys read them? Yeah, I always read the reviews. So this is kind of like a live review panel, only it's better because it's not just a review because you're supposed to write a review a certain way. This is like, wow, how did this actually influence me? Like, what difference did it make in my life? And you get to see their smiling faces and get a chance to see how awesome they are. Okay. So who would like to go first? And I think we're going to spotlight you when you come on. Yeah, Sher? Okay.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Sounds good. All right, great. I am Sher, and I live in the Houston, Texas area. I came across Maggie through her wonderful YouTube videos and saw that she is a generator in human design, as am I. And so there was already that connection there. And I just love the way she articulates and educates on human design, as well as being able to be very relatable in how it applies to people's lives. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted her to be my human design teacher. And then as I got to know her a little bit better and through her other offerings, I realized there's a wealth of information and experience that she has to offer and has truly a heart to give and to help elevate humanity, which is a big, tall order. I started working with her one-on-one and also in some group forums, and then heard about the birthing of this amazing book, which was so well timed because now I got to be part of the birthing process, which is an incredible honor and experience to witness. I know how hard she has worked to put this together and her bigger vision for it in the world. And as I said, it's an honor to be a part of that. What I really appreciated about what she did in putting this book together was trying to distill very complex approaches for how we can elevate and improve our human experience, and distill them down to these pillars that become very actionable, measurable, and achievable. I came to her personally at a time in my life where I was at a crossroads, professionally, personally, spiritually, and going through these pillars and having a roadmap on how I can live up to my purpose and feel like a better human, um, really is very timely. Pillar one is the one I'd like to focus on. It's the one where she talks about co creating with the flow of life. And coming from a very corporate academic background, I think I needed to reconnect to my connection with the flow of life, or God, spirit, source power. And I love that she's agnostic about the term. We could apply it to whatever fits with us. And if I can, I'd like to read just a few sentences that really resonated with me from this section, this pillar. It starts off here with a question in the section, we humans are spiritual beings. She says, what are your creativity, imagination, and intuition, but your interface with the all that is? And right there, I had pondered and I said, oh, that is the connection. Creativity, imagination, and intuition, they're all connected to the same source. That is where we're getting this from. And it seems obvious now, but at first that was it had me at a pause. And then she continues. She says, the universe, the flow of life, the God force, the all that is, source energy, all name the vast intelligence that has created and continues to create the universe, the multiverse as we know it. It creates by nature, and you, as one of its expressions, also create by nature. You can't not create, as this process is intrinsic to you. Creativity isn't just about what we call the arts. Creativity infuses every one of us in our own unique ways. You receive a spark of divine inspiration through your own consciousness so that the spark becomes intelligible to you. You translate the spark into an image or words or a felt sense, and something new emerges. Every time you have an insight, an epiphany, a download, an aha moment, you're co creating with the flow of life. And I took a sigh of relief and I thought, oh, I'm more connected than I realized. I consider myself a creative person. I take time to imagine. Yeah, I'm not always implementing what I imagine, but I dabble, and I felt more connected. And I realized my source of intuition is more than just a mental activity. It is really a connection to the flow of life. And I've made an intention since to really think about when I have those intuitive hunches, really to appreciate the power of what's coming through and recognizing this is wisdom to guide me into making better decisions, honored decisions that I will have integrity with. And also I have the benefit of talking to Maggie regularly. So we talk about that at length. In my situation is really operating from a place of integrity. And that's the connection I'm making from that pillar. I'll pause there if anyone has any questions or comments to add on, but that's been my experience. Maggie, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Again, it came back on.
Laura, are you unmuting me? Too many cooks in the kitchen. All right. Let me see if I can get us back in. Okay, there we go. And then Ratna, you can come back. All right. So thank you, Sher. That was awesome. I love that. It's part of my mission and purpose is to help people reconnect with their intuition and creativity, as you know. So yay. Do either Ratna or Geraldine, do you have a comment or question or anything for Sher?
I think it was just beautiful the way you recognized in yourself, I'm already a creative being and I'm already in the process and just checking in with that and using the pillars as a way to like expand that and just really just like own it. And I thought that was just well recognized.
Thank you. It did take a lot of the pressure off. Sometimes I can be so in my head. Maggie talks to me about that a lot. Or you're in your head, and get back in your heart-centered place. And then I realize, I'm already doing it. It- and it actually creates more room for flow. Thank you.
Well, and another thing I noticed too in both what you shared and in Maggie's book is that one of the strengths of this book is it describes so many different aspects of experience. And so my experience of it, and it sounds like maybe yours too, Sher, was to just read and recognize aspects of myself throughout, and especially that the structure of leading us through, hey, am I in a more empowered place or am I in a disempowered place, or it makes room for however I'm showing up, for me to be able to see myself there, and then I can move from there with the structure of this as a kind of roadmap. It's really powerful.
Yes, I relate.
So, Sher, do you feel complete for now?
I do. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So, who else would like to share?
Okay.
Yeah, Geraldine. Let me see if I can do this correctly this time. Dun, ta-da! There you go.
Okay, I'm just gonna read something that resonated with me. What intuitive creative abilities did you have as a young person that have either faded away from lack of attention or that you purposefully turned away from because they didn't fit into the life you were presented? How do you feel as you consider this? I experienced grief when I realized how much I had shut down this vital aspects of my being, and then the invitation to make some notes. And I love this interactive structure of the book, and how it's just so in line with knowing how you've been teaching, and just to have this like back and forth, and it's not just like a static text that you're conveying. It's really the imitate. And also, with that support is whatever path you take, I'm going to be walking shoulder to shoulder with you, your hand in mine on every step of this journey. And when I read that, it really moved me, because I really feel that sense from the book and from your presence, and when I discovered you on YouTube, I was looking for, I guess I didn't introduce myself. I'm Geraldine. And I found Maggie through YouTube, and I just immediately resonated. And I was drawn to you. And I feel that so strongly. And when I read that, and I just brought tears to me, because I feel like so much of in transformation, what can be so scary is this unknown aspect of what's going to happen, what am I going to face, and it's more about like this unknown fears, and just knowing that you're shouldering the strength, and walking and creating that camaraderie. It just extends also into your virtual group, where there's just like a community waiting, to embrace the things that come up on this journey. So in the first passage that I read, I was struck with remembering who I was as a child, which was just inventive and creative. And I really had the feeling as a child, from what I can remember, is just like that co-creating with the universe. And I think that's really what the book for me is about, is just the invitation to be remembering who we are. And it's just being in that place of like, okay, facing all of the conditioning that we've had, that I've had in my life, and then kind of like it's like relearning how to swim. And I just feel so supported by you, and I really feel like the essence of the support and the visual of the pillars, just it's just so there. And then again, the virtual community, I just feel like blessed to have intersected with you at this time in my life. And so thank you.
You're so welcome. And I want to invite you, and any of you really, but to share a little bit about our global community, because part of what people who purchase the book through our website, part of what they'll receive is an invitation to a new space that's going to be opening up inside of our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, which is for feminine sovereignty. And it's where the 3-session masterclass will be. And it's where we'll be starting the conversation. There'll be other programs that come for people who want to work more in depth with this material. But we're going to be starting getting that particular space going. And you brought it up, Geraldine. So I'm just wondering if you can just share a little bit about what, because, we get invited to things all the time, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, here's another thing you can participate in, or this or that or whatever, right? And I'm curious, what is it that you feel is compelling for you as far as the online community that we've got?
So I have had some experience, because I've been taking another course with you, of what the online community is about in terms of the structure and the people and the kind of flow. And I feel like in doing this kind of transformational work, um, that it's just so important to have a context, and to not go at it alone, to have the support, and to feel seen and heard by others. And the group of women that are in there, at least from my experience so far, and I just imagine it like expanding more and more, mostly women that are just really in a like-minded intention with what they want to create in their own lives, and also just being there and being, like shoulder to shoulder, just like open arms, just just a beautiful, very authentic and safe space to do this work and not do it alone. And I just feel like it, the things that have happened in my own life have been transformational, and it's just incredible. And I just feel very lucky. And yeah.
Thank you, Geraldine. I feel really blessed at what is coming together in our community also. I think that there's a lot of desire for connection, and our world is really wacky. Like, it's a nice word for it. And so it's like being able to actually connect and actually collaborate and not feel so alone is huge. And it's obviously it's a part of the book, right? But it's also for me one of the key things that needs to happen in our world for us to really grow and evolve in the way that we're being called to, is and very much not to do it alone. I'll also just say that this is a funny thing based on what you read, Geraldine. I have a really good friend who read the book before, when I was still finishing it up, right? So she read it, but it was in draft form. And she goes, May, I got to the end of your introduction, and you were saying this thing about, oh, I'm going to walk shoulder to shoulder with you with my hand in yours. And she goes, yeah, I thought that was a really nice idea. But I was like, I have no idea how she's going to do that. And then she goes, but you did it. You actually did it in a book. And I was like, I tried. So I'm glad to know it was successful.
That was
Yeah.
very comforting right at the beginning. I agree, Geraldine. That was very different. And I was curious to see how that emerged. And yeah, I won't spoil it for readers, but there is definitely an experiential aspect of that coming to form. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the project, if you will, of feminine sovereignty, is about us becoming reconnecting and becoming more present and working our stuff not alone but together. Yeah, more.
Yeah. And I think, part of it is like there's so many transformational things or quizzes or different aspects, and there's a lot of like buzzwords. And I think what really sets you apart, Maggie, is that you really walk the walk. And that's why this shoulder to shoulder is just, not only do you have it in the book where it's like this interactive thing, but then you have this real experience with real people right there, to meet the experience. And it's really, not only did you try, you did it. So I'm just, wow.
Well, thank you. I received that. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And more to come, because, with the community that's being drawn to the book, right, we're going to have we're going to have a bigger reach, and we're going to have more coming in, and it's an exciting time. So thank you for naming that, Geraldine. So Ratna, would you like to share?
Sure. My name's Ratna Papert, and I really love the way that there's a sense of orderly flow throughout the book. One of the parts that spoke to me pretty strongly was in Pillar 4, where it was about understanding one's own personal energy. And then there was a part right at the end of Pillar 4 where it was, or close to the end, where there was a conversation about self-correction and self-creation, and there was this movement from forgiveness to self-forgiveness to celebration to gratitude. And I thought that was such a powerful step by step for each of those, because and sometimes there is this spiral back as we go through forgiveness, and then it's like, oh, I need to forgive myself first, and then I'll come back and I'll forgive the other person. But I love, just, I've mentioned this to you before on other calls, but the celebration following the forgiveness feels so vital to me, and that the gratitude follows the celebration. So it's like, sometimes when I've received the advice about, how important gratitude is, I feel like I'm trying to do gratitude on an empty stomach. And so filling up with celebration first, but also preparing for the celebration by forgiving first, is just this really lovely, each thing feeds the next thing. And then that felt like a microcosm. And then on a macrocosm, I really loved the way that, Pillar 4 was sort of the end of these intrapersonal workings in terms of one's own personal energy. And then, 5, 6, 7, and 8 had to do with how we bring it out into the world. And it just, I want to echo what both Geraldine and Sher said about the, I'll be right with you to hold your hand, because it really, especially in those pillars, it really did feel like, those are the places where if I were a little kid, I'd be trying to hide behind my mom's skirt or something. And, when it comes to bringing myself more fully out into the world, and the examples that you gave were just so beautiful about bringing what we're able to bring and what we enjoy bringing to the table, and then doing it in the capacity that we're able to do it, rather than, pushing so hard that we end up in burnout about it. And there were just so many beautiful examples of people who started small within their communities, and who whose projects of collaboration have grown into these really big forces that inspire people around the world, even though they may the thing they're doing might still be very small and small enough for them to still wrap their head and heart around it without feeling overwhelmed. And I just thought it was such a beautiful example slash invitation of what it can look like to begin to share on a heart-based level with the world what we are able to offer.
Beautiful.
So I guess that's all I have to say about that. I'd love to be a part of a conversation with all of us now.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Ratna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Aw. I love hearing this. It's so funny, it's like I spend like years literally alone in a room with my computer and books and whatever. And I mean, obviously, all of my work and like with people like you and everything I've done, all of that informs what I've done. But it's different to get to hear like how this has landed for you. It really is. Thank you. It's gratifying. And I'm curious, so anybody can respond to this that they want to, but was there anything that really like anything in the book that either what was in the book surprised you or it stimulated something in you that was surprising to you? Like it gave you like you got a new perspective or you're like, I never looked at it that way, or something that really kind of, and I'll say because part of what I try to do, that my aim is to create those interruptions in what's normal, so that we can, because it's when we can interrupt just the ongoing normality of things that new things can occur. So I'm just wondering if there was anything that you're, that was like surprising for you, that you were like, wow, I had never thought about it like that, or that helped me see something really different.
There was a moment where you were talking about beginning your Kriya practice, the breathwork Kundalini yoga practice. And I guess in my brain, there was this idea that, there are people who do it and there are people who don't do it. And I couldn't, I felt like maybe I was one of the ones who didn't do it. And I was so grateful that you just talked about how you resisted it for a long time before it became part of your regular day to day, and then how vital a habit it has become for you in your regular day to day. And just sort of that companioning of being like, oh, okay, so it's not just, she's not just modeling what it's like to do the thing, she's also modeling what it's like to feel resistance to doing the thing. And I'm there, so maybe I can join her in doing the thing too. And that really shifted a lot for me. I started doing the Kriya practice a lot more frequently and pretty regularly, in part because I didn't feel alone in my resistance.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that. Well, what's really funny, Ratna, is I had the same experience with my yoga master, because she told a story about how she was never able to, or whatever, she never started a daily practice until she had to, because it was part of her teacher training. It was the same with me. I never did it until I had to, because it was part of my teacher training. It was like, you have to do this. And so sometimes we need, it's like the surrogate parent. Why do I have to do that? Because I said so.
Well, for me, it was a different energy though, because I didn't feel like anybody was telling me I had to, but they were, they were acknowledging that that the resistance is a common experience. And so because I didn't feel othered because of having that experience, then I started to feel like I could include myself in the practice.
Yeah, no, I get it. And actually, and the reason I brought it up is that even though I was in a teacher training and she was like, you have to, it didn't come across that way.
Mm-hmm.
It came across kind of like what you're describing, It was like, look, this is not necessarily an easy thing for a bunch of you, right? I didn't do it either. I get it. It was much more like that. It was like, but yeah, and it was like, but do it for 3 months and see what happens, because you won't go back. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm. Do either of you have a comment, something that was surprising or interrupted a pattern or helped you see something differently?
So I don't know if this was in the book or in a conversation that we had recently, but there was this idea of retelling the stories that we have going, and in going back into that place and putting the energy, like retelling the story, you're actually healing the moment of that place, and like time, it's like a different timeline. And I thought that was so fascinating, and like really grabbed my attention in like a different way. And it just made me feel like, at the same time, that it was like a personal experience, but also that it was this cosmic energy, which is just, I mean, so profound. Like how the potential of what we tell ourselves and how it affects everyone, and the possibility that this could be like healing, our own healing can be, um, in can affect like the energy in the world, like an actual, quantum. And it's for me, it's like new to talk about these ideas, and I feel like very like airy fairy. But then when I think about you as a scholar, it just makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel that your ideas are grounded in a historic context. And then I remind myself that we've just been in this linear thing about progress, the story of progress, for just a short time. And it just I just love that. I love feeling safe with these ideas, and it makes me feel even more excited that the richness and the possibility of them.
Beautiful, Geraldine. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, the book itself is all about retelling stories, right? I mean, that's one of its key uh, aims, is to retell stories. Um, I actually started calling it regenerative history, right? Because how we tell stories influences the past, in my view. And I do not claim to understand this. So let me just say that. And your logical mind might be like, but I do believe that there are dimensions where there is no time, right? Or time is simultaneous and it's actually experienced as space, not as time. And that when we retell stories that are more accurate and more true for more of the people or the context involved, because in this case sometimes it's the living world, it's not people, but it's like the green people and the winged people and the swimming people, and you know what I mean, it's those people. And retelling stories so that we can, because I believe we learn and understand through story. So I know a lot of times people want to throw story out, like, oh, it's just a bunch of story. And I'm like, well, no, you actually can't get outside a story, because it's how human beings make sense of things, is they make stories out of them. And so what we want is, we want empowering stories, right? We want stories that help lead us into creating the world we want to live in. We want stories that help us to understand our own worthiness and our own value and our own magnificence. Like, we want those stories. And I believe that when we do that, and when we do things, and if you go like what you were talking about, Ratna, about, it's actually in the date, your daily date with the divine, that sequence you were talking about. And when you do that, that's a process of telling a new story, right? Forgiveness, celebration, right? Like, that's a new story. And we have the capacity to tell stories. And when we do that, I can be agnostic about this, but I like to believe that, like, if I tell a new story about little Maggie, it actually changes in that other place where there is no time, it changes little Maggie in that other experience. And it's also true collectively. Like, if the colonists who came, my ancestors, came to this continent, told new stories about who the people were who are already here, for example, and if we woke up to the fact that they had been stewarding this continent for tens of thousands of years before we got here, and, oh, gee, we might have something to learn from them, right? This helps us, how can we be in the world with them, recognizing that they are other human beings. We all have things of value to provide and to learn from each other and to support, like, all of that, right? If we can start telling a new story about that, which is part of the project of the book, then I think it can help us change the ripples of history, if you will. Like I said, I don't claim to understand that, and I'm not a time traveler. But I do feel that, and I think that it also gives us a new foundation for how we want to move into our future, right? And how we're creating our new future, right? And because we have to get really honest with ourselves about our history, I feel, if we're going to create a new future. You can't, it's not like wishful thinking isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
Maggie, I wonder how that plays into, and Ratna brought this up, and this is something that stood out to me too, where you talk about the spiraling journey and how we
Mhm.
have a set of transformation, and then there's another layer to experience. How do you see that in terms of what you're talking about here with retelling history? Because I feel like there's a connection, but I'm not quite
It
putting it
is. It's
together.
exactly it's exactly it. It's exactly it, Cher. Because what are we doing? We're spiraling back into our understanding of the past. So we're spiraling back into that. And here in the United States, I'm sorry, Ket, you weren't able to join us. We had one of our international people was going to come, but here in the United States, there's a big culture war going on about history, about what history do we say is true. And we talk about disinformation a lot and all of that that's going on. But a big piece of that is, how do we understand who we are as a people, and how did we get to where we are as a people? And there's actually a section in the purpose part about the purpose of peoples, right? Because our individual sense of purpose lives inside of a much larger context of who we are, who our family was, where we grew up, what community we consider ourselves to be a part of, and all of that. And all of that is really influencing anything we might think about our purpose in the world, or how we're spiraling out to show up in the world, right? Is, who are our people, and what was their experience like? What was their ancestral experience like? And how is that it continuing to influence us today? So absolutely, it is like there isn't the individual spiral of spiraling inside with the first four pillars, right? Where we're going deep into our inner landscape, and we're going over these core aspects of our connection to spirit, right? Our emotional intelligence, our physical vitality and relationship to the living world, and then our energetic adeptness and radiance, like those things, and really building ourselves there. But then, for what purpose? Right? For what purpose? Like, to do what? Not so that we can be, like, for me, I'm like, personal development, I don't think, is really meant to be a career. You know what I mean? It's like, we do it so that we can become empowered, awakened, compassionate, caring beings to contribute and participate in our world in meaningful ways. And so that's where we spiral out into our interactions with other people, our communications and our collaborations and working with the living world. But then our emotions rise up. We have a conversation with somebody whose belief system is really different than our own. We're trying to connect with people across historical divides, and something they say is like, oh my, triggers something. And we're like, whoa, okay. I'm not quite sure what I think about that. But our emotional wisdom helps us to be able to hold on to our emotions and not just spew it out at somebody. But then we need to spiral back in and go, what got triggered in me? Wow, why did I get so upset about that? Like what's going on in me that this upsets me this much? And that's where that another layer goes. Um, and I'll just say, Share, because it's here in the environment, is I have had a pattern through my life of having some kind of challenge arise when I'm in the process of really creating something. And it's happened for a long time. And I've been clearing it and clearing it and clearing it and do all the things that I know to do, use my tools. And you know what? For this book coming out, it came up again because Amazon held the book for 10 days before they published it. They only published it yesterday. And yeah. And it was not an easy journey. Let me just put it that way. I did eventually figure out what the issue was, and we did eventually resolve it, but not to go into details about it. But I'll just say my nervous system responded to that in ways that were out of proportion to what was happening. I mean, it was stressful. I mean, it's going to be stressful for anybody to be kind of caught in Amazon purgatory for 10 days and not know what the issue is. It's going to be stressful. But I also knew that there was a thing in me that was also stimulating how my nervous system was responding to the situation. And so I did a lot of Kriyas and a lot of energy work coming here. And I'm like going, my book's got to come out. My book's got to come out. And I'm like, no small children are going to die if your book doesn't come out. It's okay. Like, we'll be okay. And then, no, I'm going to die if it doesn't come out. Right. And I got to just meet that part of myself. I got to meet that trauma wound, which hadn't gotten fully healed. And I don't know if it fully is or not, but my book got published and here we are and everything's rolling and I feel great. And my nervous system, I need to go rest a bit more because it was hard on my nervous system. But it was like, this is how transformation happens. It doesn't always have to be that challenging, but it is about meeting the places inside of us that are afraid, wounded, contracted. The world's a dangerous place. And there are people living in very dangerous places in the world. Okay. I got to say that because it's totally true. So I'm not at all dismissing people's actual experience, but people who live very safe lives walk around acting like the world's really dangerous. And so we need to look at that and be like, what is that all like? Do we really want to leave that way? Right. So that's why the spirals keep going, because when we're going to go to another level, there's usually something we need to move through, something we need to heal, something we need to become aware of, something we need to forgive, right? Or make amends, you know? And then we can move forward. But it's when we actually say, I'm going to evolve myself, I'm going to evolve my life, that we're on the spiral. So
Yeah, and I think it's easy to get into a mindset of like, okay, I'm going to transform, and it's like a one and done process. But it's like, okay, this is it. This is like, it's a process that's going to be like, this is the work of our lives, right? And it's interesting, like on a personal level, recently my father, he has pancreatic cancer, and I came to a place of forgiveness with him. And that was like a really important step for me, right? And for him. And it just happened like in a moment of our exchange, where he acknowledged like that he wished he had been there for me in a different way growing up. And I was ready to receive that, and it was such a beautiful moment for us to share. And, coming out of that, it's impossible for me to see that situation the same way that I had been telling myself for years and years, right? So there's like an integrity, like on a cellular level, like that it's just, even though I might have the same conversation appear, I can identify it and be like, oh no, wait, that was that thing. And I'm familiar with it now. And, it was just a really, I love that. And then, expanding it into the community, like it's so easy to get into a trap of like, they're wrong, you know, and, it without really understanding, like, what this is like the other side of the coin. We're in the same coin.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to read a comment from Ket because it's related to what you just said too. And because Ket is our member who's in Hungary who wasn't able to come in because of her bandwidth, I think, or something with her technology. Anyway, she says, I really love the pillar 6 communication that connects and makes it clear why we still have war on Earth today. We need to learn how to do communication that connects. Right. And what you're just describing, Geraldine, in terms of your own experience with your dad, is a vital part of us growing ourselves so that we can actually connect through our communication rather than facing off with each other and acting like we're, I call it's the ping pong game, right? It's like you say this, and you say that, and who gets the last word, right? And it's like nobody wins in that situation, right? Nobody wins. That it's when we can actually open our hearts and listen to what's going on for somebody and not make them wrong, even if we don't agree with them, that new things become possible. I'm glad you had that experience with your dad. Yeah. Kat says, beautiful Geraldine. And someone who I think is just says such a beautiful and rich conversation. We have just a few more minutes left. And I was going to say to anybody who's actually out there watching live, if you have any questions for our panelists, please go ahead and post them and Laura will send them on to us so we can hear what they are. So I would just ask any of you to respond to what would you say to someone, maybe they already bought the book or, whatever that status is, but anybody who's considering, really kind of diving into feminine sovereignty as a tool and a resource and a guidance system and a support community for them? Like, what is there anything that you would say to somebody like that?
One of the thoughts that occurred to me is sort of a follow-up on what Geraldine said about doing something once versus doing something repeatedly. And I do feel like this book would reward multiple readings because I think I think anybody who read it could see themselves at different points in their life in it as they read it at different times in their life. I guess that being said, if there's a part that maybe doesn't resonate for them the first time through, keep reading and maybe you'll find the part that you're like, ooh, that's me right now. And then maybe through another reading, the part that didn't resonate will be the part that's, oh my gosh, this is totally me this time. I feel like there's in terms of the spiraling, it's almost like a spiral respiratory cycle where it's like you take it in and you embody it and then you live it out and then you need to breathe in again because you don't just breathe out once. But all the things that we could see about ourselves in this, we can come back and see again from a different perspective as we live and continue to interact with ourselves and with other people.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, this is not, you could just read this book through, and I know some of you did because you wrote reviews, but it's also a book to like work with. And that's kind of the point, was to work with it. Do either of you have anything that you would say to people who are considering checking this out more?
I think that if I were to say like one thing, like now is the time to get involved with this book and Maggie and her community, because I feel like, just to the point of like making a career out of transformation, it's just really easy to get in that trap. And I feel like this is This is the kind of answer to actually doing the work that's involved in transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It
It's the
offers
time.
such a beautiful context for the work that we do for transformation too, I think.
Oh, yeah. I love how you pointed out, Ratna, that this is not a one time and that breathing isn't just the inhale and exhale. It's that cycle. You're so good with your analogies. I love the way you
Oh,
describe.
thanks.
Yeah, she thinks in metaphors, I think.
I love it. It's
I
beautiful.
love it.
Her artist self.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. um, I do see this as a guidebook. I do see this as a manual that you take through different stages of life and you revisit and you interact with. And the missing piece that you're building and growing and expanding is the community to support people at different stages of their journey. And you said this earlier, and I just want to affirm that feels so right to me as well, especially as I embarking on my own becoming and offering coaching services to the world, how important this community and having a community and support is. It's not an intellectual job and it's not an independent job. It is a collective job. It's one of your pillars. And it's how we get out of this, what did you say, wacky world we're in and recreate the
Mm.
new world we want to be a part of. It's going to be done with a foundation of feminine sovereignty. And I love the distinction by adding the feminine and how that is so different than just the traditional meaning of sovereignty. And we all have a part to play. So I'm excited about this birth and all the new people who are going to sign up for their part to play in living this
Mm.
vision.
Mm. Thank you, Cher. Thank you, all of you. Oh, let me just read. We got a couple of comments in here. Kat says this book speaks to me. And Dale says, so great to hear early adopter readers' experience. And she asked, would we post the address to enter the raffle again? So that is femininesovereigntybook.com/win. So when you go and register there, you'll have you'll be entered into the raffle to potentially win a signed copy of the book. I'll be giving away 3 of them, and or a 1-hour session with me, human design session, or a mentoring in feminine sovereignty session. So that's what that is about, the femininesovereigntybook.com.
And can we enter that
Win.
too?
I'm sorry?
Can we enter that too?
Yeah, anybody can enter. Absolutely.
I want the
And
hard copy.
yeah, and it's all random. We've got this really fun little tool to do a random Wheel of Fortune thing with all the names. So that'll be fun. Since it's a day of celebration, we have to give things away, right? So, and then Jill says, very grateful for this discussion, confirming 75 plus years realities. All right. Well, we are going to wind up this session for today. I encourage you to go get the book today. If you haven't already, it's free on Kindle, or you can get the paperback, and you can get it at least in some parts of Germany or some parts of Europe. I don't know. I know you can get it in the UK. I heard it from Germany. Maybe, and apparently, Ratna, you heard from Rose that she could get it because she's in the Netherlands.
Yeah, Rose posted and she said that she saw that it was available on Amazon. So for her.
Because before they told me it was only going to be available in the US and the UK. And I'm like, not Canada? I'm like,
Maybe
really?
because it's #1 now, right?
No, they did it earlier.
Oh.
They did it earlier. Maybe they were doing it to make up for the Amazon purgatory I was in for 10 days. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the flow of life said, wait a minute, we need to get this out. We need to get this out in the world. And I do say that to the flow of life a lot. I'm like, if you want this body of work to get out, you have got to support me because, man, this is a lot. You got to help me get it out because I cannot do this on my own, not even remotely. So go get the book. Come join us in the masterclass. Come join us in Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center. And let me just be clear. If you buy the book through our website or you pre-ordered, and you do that today, you get bonus into the masterclass, and we will be sending you an invitation to come and join us in our really cool retreat space, which is what they're all talking about because they've all been in there for our Embody Your Human Design program. So
So do it now.
Yeah.
Any last word as we're wrapping up here, my dears?
Thank you and congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Kat says, let's celebrate our life in the book. Yay, let's celebrate. So yeah, I'm going to go out to dinner tonight. I know that for sure. All right, my dears. And thank you. I know. Do you see me opening my bottle of champagne on Facebook? So thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your perspective. And I'm really, really grateful. And it's really, I think it's very helpful for people to hear from, I mean, I just have one perspective, right? And I'm obviously the person who wrote the book. And so it's great to know, well, how did it influence other people? So your testimony, as it were, is absolutely vital. And I appreciate it. All right, everybody. So I will be back at 2:30 with Robin Wynn, who is a 3-time bestselling author of 3 human design books. And we're going to talk about human design and feminine sovereignty. So we'll be on at 2:30, and then we're going to run the raffle at 5 o'clock. So femininesovereigntybook.com/win. All right. Laura's getting really good with the
She is. Yeah.
there. Thank you, Laura. And Laura's behind the
Laura.
scenes. So I'll say thank you, Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Thank you.
All right. Going to sign off for now. Many blessings.
Thank
much
you.
love.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.